All right, what is going on, everyone? Hopefully you guys can hear me. Welcome back to another Dividend Happy Hour. As usual, we have a very fun video planned ahead of us. And tonight I'll be joined by my good friend Nolan, who we'll bring in just a couple of minutes. But before we get to all that, I want to welcome you guys to the stream. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight and spending your Friday evening with both Nolan and myself. Like I said, we have a really fun video planned today. We're going to be talking about the best way to invest $100. If you only have $100 to your name every single month that you can contribute to your portfolio, what's the best way to do so? So we're going to get into that, which is very exciting. And then we'll go through a little bit of a Q&A. But guys, before we get to all that, we have some official business to attend to. I want to ask you guys, what did you buy this week? It was a very interesting week on the stock market, but I want to know which stocks you guys picked up. So let me know in the live chat and let me know in the comments below if you're watching the replay. And now, as you guys are submitting your answers there, which we'll bring up later in the stream, I want to give a quick shout out here to Eric Platts, who recently hit $1,000 in annual dividend income, which is a huge milestone. 4 figures is no joke. So, Eric, I want to give a shout out to you, my friend. Good job. Congratulations. And keep up the great work. And for those of you guys, if you ever have any milestones that you've hit in your portfolio, whether it's a certain market value you've hit or dividend income milestones, let me know one way or another, whether it's in the Discord, which link in the description if you want to join, totally free. Discord, you can shoot me an email, leave me a comment on a video. I love sharing these milestones that you guys come up with. It's just so cool to see you guys making progress in your portfolio. So definitely share all of those with me. And now, guys, we are going to get into the main topic. And like I said, tonight, guys, we'll be joined by my good friend Nolan Gouveia, aka Professor G, who is he's a content creator here on YouTube. He has a really great channel talking about investing and personal finance and all that stuff. And he's also a professor at Christian Baptist University, and he teaches this stuff. He teaches business and entrepreneurship. So he's very well versed in the subject, and I'm very excited to bring him on. So without further ado, let's bring Nolan into the stream. Nolan, man, there you are.
What's up, guys? How are you? Hey, Ryan.
Hey, man, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm stoked to have you here. Finally, man, I'm stoked to have you in the Dividend Happy Hour.
Yeah, I've been a fan for a while now. Been watching, been hoping that I'd get called up to the big leagues. So I'm excited.
Yeah, right, man. This is hardly the big leagues, but hey, we have an important subject we're going to get to in just a moment. But I want to ask you, just like I asked everyone else in the live chat, what'd you buy this week? Did you pick up any good stocks? Any ETFs?
Yeah, for me, actually, I've really been trying to build that position in SCHD. So, I mean, the more and more I've really been researching specific dividend stocks and specific dividend just ideology, I've just fallen in love with it. And so I used to be a big, monstrous VU guy and big growth stock guy, but I'm starting to really like that cash flow. And so SCHD has really been what I picked up. I also picked up a couple shares of Microsoft today. So,
yeah, no, good time to buy both of those. And is there something that made you? We'll get to the main topic in a sec, but I'm curious. Is there something that made you kind of, what's developed your affinity for cash flow for dividend investing lately? Is there anything in particular?
yeah, I think it's just been maturity in the space, to be honest. I think when I started, like a lot of people, I think what I saw was investing was all about getting to this big number at some point and really, really falling in love with compound interest, which I still absolutely love. But I started to realize I kind of want to live now also. I do like my job. I do like all of my streams of income and the way that I make my money, but I would rather have a way to be able to, offset some of those bills and be able to get closer to that financial freedom. And so started to realize that cash flow is more the way. And so partly dividend investing, partly real estate investing, that's been more my play lately.
Nice, man. And having said that, I mean, that's obviously not to say that like capital appreciation doesn't matter, right? It's just kind of scratches a different itch in a sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool, man. I dig that. So let's get into the main topic, man. I think this is actually a really good segue talking about SCHD, which I think you're about to I might be wrong, but I think you might bring it back up in a sec. But our friend EW here wants to know, what should you invest in if you only have $100 a month, passive income wise? So Nolan, I want you to kick this off. If you only had $100 to your name to contribute to a portfolio, every month, what would you do? Like, how would you allocate those funds?
Yeah, definitely. First and foremost, if that's any of you out there, if you are literally sitting there and you're saying, I have $100, what should I do with this? First of all, hats off to you, bravo, because I mean, I don't know if you've seen the stats, but that is not normal. It's not normal to have any extra amount of money at the end of the month or the beginning of the month or however you do it, right? Most people's money is spoken for through expenses or credit card bills or something. And so if you have a little extra, awesome, super awesome. I'm going to take it away that my brain works because before I was an investor, I am big in entrepreneurship. And so honestly, if somebody were to come to me, which happens all the time with my students, and they said, I have $100 to invest, where should I invest it? I would honestly have to put it on, I think you should put $100 into yourself or into your business, because at the end of the day, if it's $100, that's great. That's an awesome amount. But if we're talking about the total amount that you can gain, the total return on investment, you put $100 into one of the best dividend stocks out there, maybe AT&T or something like that, where you're getting about 7%. Over the year, you're going to make $7 on that investment. Whereas if we put that $100 into putting your head down and starting a business, even if it's a small side hustle, let's just say you're going to go mow some lawns. If you have a lawnmower, $100 is going to get you 10 or 20 gallons worth of gas, right? And with that, you can mow 50 lawns. You can make $500 right then and there. And with that money, now we can start investing with that. And so for me, I would use that 100 to build it into something that's a little bit more. And then I would put it into a portfolio. But if I'm going to answer the question straight, then I'm definitely going to go SCHD. If you have $100 and you are looking to invest, you definitely are in a point where investing is important, but it's also important to make sure you get as much bang for your buck. And I think the diversification that comes from SCHD, plus it's a very solid dividend. I really can't see how that isn't, in my mind, one of the best ways to put that $100. So for me, SCHD. I do have other stocks that I would love to talk about, but I want to hear your thoughts as well.
Well, man, I think you couldn't have said it any better. I didn't expect for you to talk about investing in yourself. And when I just from having this channel, I'm always immediately drawn to bring up something stock related, right? But that was a really good point. And you're right. You could make $100 go a long way. Like, I have these books sitting here. It's like, you have $100 and you want to invest it, man. You could probably buy 5 or 6 books and gain so much from that. Or you could use that $100, buy a tripod, start a YouTube channel, which, I mean, you and I both know at this point, it does pay dividends, in a sense. And so, man, that'd be a great way to invest $100. But if we are strictly talking stocks, which, I guess that was the intent with the question, right? If we're strictly talking stocks, I would agree with you. SCHD would probably be number 1 on my list. If not SCHD, some sort of ETF like that. SCHD, VU, VYM, VTI, something like that, that, to your point, Nolan, offers cash flow. It's going to offer some good appreciation over the years, and it offers diversity or diversification. It's just going to be a great place to park your money, especially if you're someone who is just getting started with this stuff, which I could be wrong, but I think whoever was asking that question is probably towards the beginning of their investing journey, or maybe thinking about getting started. And if you're looking for somewhere to start and that's the money that you have, it's like, man, it's a no-brainer. Go with some sort of ETFs. It's going to get you some skin in the game. It's going to get you started creating that cash flow and building out a portfolio of assets. And it's going to be a good way to get your feet wet in all this stock stuff. And then as time goes on and you have more to contribute to your portfolio, you have more to invest, then maybe expand your horizons into maybe some individual stocks, like some of the ones that you mentioned, like the AT&Ts, which definitely do some due diligence if you're going to go down that route. But man, that's That was a great answer. And with that, I also want to ask you guys in the stream here, in the live chat, or in the comments below if you're watching the replay, how would you guys recommend investing $100 a month? If you only had $100 to invest, where would you put it? Because there's so many different places, and I think I would at least hope that most of us here would agree, don't just put it all into one individual stock. Don't just put it all into AT&T or Tesla, or there might be some individual stocks, maybe like a Microsoft, you can get away with that, but otherwise it's like, be careful, guys.
Definitely. And I think something along the lines of what you were talking about too, how it might be the case that this person that was asking, if I have $100, where should I invest it? I think that's how a lot of us start out, right? A lot of us start out with $100, $200, but as soon as you start seeing what could actually happen when you invest consistently, even if it's $50, $100 every month, a year in, you're doing everything you can to make it $200 a month, $300 a month, because man, that compound interest or those dividends just really start getting sweet. So that is very, very true.
Mm-hmm. And I'm actually I'm about to put something on the screen here. We're actually going to see if you invested in SCHD, which actually I think we should go through SCHD and show people who maybe aren't familiar with it what's in that ETF, because it's really cool. But after that, we're going to see if you invested $100 every single month just into this one ETF, where you would end up after 20, 25 years. So let's go back over here to the screen. We'll deal with this in just a moment, but let's go over to SCHD. We have it pulled up right here. It looks like everyone can see it okay. If we scroll down, guys, we're using Seeking Alpha, by the way. If we scroll down here, it's going to tell us what some of the holdings are in this ETF, and we can see that just from investing in this one ETF, SCHD, you're getting exposure to, in total, 104 different companies. But of those companies, you're getting Merck, you're getting Pfizer, Pepsi, Texas Instruments, IBM, Big Blue, the Home Depot, Verizon, Amgen, Coca-Cola, Cisco, tons of names that are highly recognizable and just really strong companies. So just by buying into this one simple thing, you're getting all those different stocks. And if we take a look at the dividend, it's like, scrolling down a little bit, the yield's pretty solid. You're getting a 3.6% dividend yield. Okay, and look at this 5-year growth rate, 12.1%. That's a pretty high growth rate. So you're getting exposure to great companies that offer a great yield, and furthermore, a super high dividend growth rate with some pretty consistent growth as well, 9 years of consecutive dividend growth. So there's a lot to love about SCHD, which I think is why both Nolan and I are so hyped on it. But if we go over here, guys, we're taking a look at the MarketBeat.com dividend calculator, which is going to help us project how much income we'd have and also where our portfolio would be valued if we invested a certain amount into, well, in this case, SCHD. So let's say we're starting from ground zero shares of SCHD, and every month we're investing $100, so $1,200 per year. It's got the dividend yield of it right here. And let's say, what did we see with the 5-year growth rate? It was 12. Well, it probably won't be that forever. Let's say, what do you think, Nolan? Could we put 8 there? Do you think that's fair?
I mean, 8's low, but I'm down for that. Yeah.
Okay, let's be conservative. Let's say maybe the same amount for share price appreciation, right? And let's zoom out 25 years and see what that's looking like. So 25 years from now, guys, just from investing $100 per month into this one ETF. Actually, before we get to 25, let's start at year 10. So by year 10, you'll be bringing in $612 of dividend income, and your portfolio will be valued at $20,000. So just in 10 years, you've gone from $0 to $20,000 in your portfolio. Very nice. But then if we go another decade later, your dividend income will go from $600 to almost $2,500. So in 10 years, your income's going to quadruple, right? And then your portfolio value is basically going to do the same, almost $80,000 there. And just 5 years later, your portfolio value basically doubles, almost $140,000, and you'll have about almost $4,500 in annual dividend income, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a long way from where you started, and that market value is pretty nice too, $140,000. Can't complain about that. So
yeah, all of that from just $100 a month.
Yeah, man, it's like, and you don't even have to think about it. It happens. And this is one of the good things about dividend investing, I think, man, is it happens in the background of your life. You're living life, you're working, you're doing whatever you're doing, And this is something positive you can do for yourself that's going to be life-changing someday. But doing it this way, it's like you don't have to think about it. You don't have to lift a finger. It's completely hands-off, and it
Right.
can just run and build itself in the background while you're doing all these other things. And all these other things, that's going to give you the time to, if you're that gung-ho about, I guess, retiring or having passive income, it's going to allow you the opportunity to do more things where, like Nolan said, you can invest in yourself or come up with these other projects that might actually replace your income a lot quicker than just having a dividend portfolio where you invest $100 a month might be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. I
So
totally agree with that.
anyway, man, do you have any more thoughts on the subject? $100 a month. Anything else you want to share before we go into some of these comments?
Yeah, and I think some of the comments have actually been pretty good, especially that one about not trusting people with tattoos talking about dividend investing. So
Oh,
for
I'll
that,
have I'll have to see it yet. And so or I have yet to see it. I'll see it in just a sec as we're scrolling through. But hey, guys, as we pull up some comments here, I didn't do this at the beginning of the stream. I want to cheers to Nolan. Thank you so much for coming on and hanging with me tonight, man. And also for all you guys there in the stream. I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully you guys are having fun for another Dividend Happy Hour. I really always enjoy doing these. It's like one of the highlights of my week. So thank you guys all for showing up. Oh, and Peanut says hi too. He's scratching my chair, but that's just how he says what's up.
Hi, Peanut. Yeah, one last thing that I would just submit at least into this is I think that it when I was initially thinking about how I would invest $100, obviously first and foremost would be some entrepreneurial route in some way to be able to make more of that to be able to invest. But with that first 100, definitely going into something foundational like an ETF of some sort. And then once you have that built up, I think that that's when you can start exploring with a little bit more risk. For me personally, I do like some growth stocks. Not my whole portfolio is not just dividends, but I think that that's when you can start throwing that into the mix. And so unfortunately, the old school answer of it depends is kind of the way that I would answer that person saying, how do you invest $100? I'd love to see what your savings look like. I'd love to see what your monthly expenses look like. I would love to see what your goals are long term. Um, and then you can really figure out what it's gonna be for you. But I know for me, it was all about building that foundation with ETFs. And then once I got that figured out, then it was like, okay, I'm going to put maybe 60 or 70% of my money into that safe fund, ETF investing, and then maybe have fun with 20 or 30% of the rest of my portfolio.
So is that what your portfolio's is that kind of how you divvy it up today? Most of it in ETFs, then you have a smaller percentage just in individual stocks?
Yeah, definitely. And I look at my investments as a whole. So I look at my investment portfolio as stocks, cryptocurrency, and real estate. I also look at it in the form of businesses because I have a couple businesses that I run, and that takes investment. So by looking at all of that, it helps me be able to assess where my risk is. Obviously, I have a high risk in my cryptocurrency part of the portfolio. And so if I'm investing in very risky growth stocks or something, then I kind of put that in the same category. So I don't want to have too much of my total investment in risk, even though that's the fun, sexy upside. It's also not the smartest thing in the world to be exposed to that much. And so I would say that most of my portfolio is very boring. A lot of my friends kind of harp on me because I invest like a grandpa. But to be fair, I do invest very similar to Warren Buffett. And so if I'm going to invest like that grandpa, I'm pretty cool with that.
No, that's very well said, man. So you'll be like, okay, I've got some crypto going on here. I've got, maybe my businesses are a little volatile right now. So I probably, if I'm going to allocate any more funds, I probably should do it somewhere safer, put it more into ETFs right now. And then that might change, as time goes on or depending on what's going on throughout your entire portfolio.
Yep. Yeah. And so I look at it like literally, you can put out a spreadsheet. And so, especially recently with getting deeper and deeper into real estate, that really starts to skew your portfolio because those upfront costs are, you know,
Mm-hmm.
insane compared to how much you're used to putting into stocks or something. And so if you have too much risk in one area, you just never want to be caught with your pants down. So that's always the goal there. And so with my stock investing specifically, it is pretty boring.
Okay. No, that makes sense, man. Do you have a certain type of asset that you like above all? Like, do you like stocks better, or crypto, or real estate, or your businesses? Do you have a favorite?
Not really. They kind of feel like they're all, I don't know how you feel about them, but they almost feel like they're like your employees or your baby, you know? And it's like,
Hmm.
I just really like this. I really like this. So I like them for different reasons. Honestly, lately it's been more about real estate just because of understanding the leverage that you can use there, and having a physical asset is kind of cool.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, out of all of them, it's probably the probably real estate at this point.
Okay. I think I've asked you about this before, just off camera, obviously, but what's your real estate portfolio looking like? Is it mainly residential, or do you have some commercial? What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm actually
If you don't mind sharing.
no, I'm good with that. I
Okay.
was very much leaning towards commercial about 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm actually happy that I didn't go that route, because after COVID happened, it was very apparent that I think work is going to look a lot different over the next 5 to 10 years. And even though there is this whole, everyone get back to the office type deal, I think people are starting to figure out, mental health is more important, and that means a 4 day work week. That means shifts. That means some type of partly work from home, and I truly believe in that. So I'm gonna stay back on that. But yeah, I have a long term rental, just a residential long term, and then I also have a short term Airbnb, and those are the two that I have at this moment. And I'm working on a couple more, but this this market's a little interesting right now.
Yeah. I'm very curious about the Airbnb. So I'm guessing that was, I don't want to say harder, but took a lot more to set up, to get up and running than did the long term rental, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, with the long term rental, you have to think about some things because you're having a person or a family, in my case, living in this home. And really, that home was our home, my wife and I's home. And we moved from there. And so we had a emotional tie to it to a certain extent. And we had to learn very quickly, you can't really have an emotional tie if you're going to have a rental property, because at that point, they're going to feel like it's their home. So they're going to do with it what they will. And so turning that into an asset in my brain was new. But the Airbnb was different because it was like, all right, this is always going to be an investment. This is always going to be something that's supposed to make us money. But that one's a lot more fun. My brother's an artist, and so he put together
Oh,
a
right.
cool mural on like the brick and all that. So it's pretty cool.
That's super cool, man. Do you guys self-manage the Airbnb, or did you have a company managing that for you? Because I think there are that specialize in short-term rentals, right?
Yeah, there are, and we're actually working through that because we just recently closed escrow on that.
Oh, okay.
We just got into the Airbnb space, so more research than anything else, but already excited about that for sure.
Dude, that's very exciting. Once you spend a little more time with it, you'll have to let me know how it's going for you, because I'm super curious about that. My girlfriend and I talk about that quite a bit, and she's starting to well, I guess has been kind of getting more interested in investing. She's got her portfolio on Robinhood that she invests in,
Nice,
$100 a month. So that's what she
really,
does. Yeah, yeah.
wow,
Coincidentally, but when we talk about real estate, because I have a little bit going on in real estate. It's not too much, just one rental property. Um, but when we talk about doing more real estate, which I'd like to do as soon as I can make some more money to put into that, but when we talk about doing that, she specifically likes the idea of doing short-term rentals. And we just moved to Las Vegas, and it's a pretty good place to have an Airbnb. Obviously, there's a ton of them out here. Um, but it seems like, and I'm sure it depends on the market that you're in, but it seems like there are so many. It seems like there are so many particular things you have to deal with Airbnbs, and licenses you have to get, just all these different things you have to deal with. And it seems like it's a lot more intricate and a lot more hands-on than having a long-term rental.
Oh yeah, 100%. But if you look at the return, it's also, in that favor.
Yeah.
It's the same way with, with stocks, right? There's higher risk, higher reward. And I see this the same. I definitely see my long-term rental as just a super cool passive income. I don't even, I haven't even talked to them in a couple months, and it's just a check that comes in every month. So that's awesome. Um, but the Airbnb is going to be much different. I also look at that though from again the entrepreneur perspective of it's a high barrier to entry to a certain
Mm-hmm.
extent where people think, oh man, I have to do a lot of work here to get into this. And if that's the case, if people are thinking that, then maybe I have some competitive advantage there since I'm already doing it.
Yeah, since you're willing to take those extra steps.
Yep.
That's a good point. Anyway, man, let's switch gears.
Yeah.
I want to put on some of the community's purchases, what people are buying out there. So Harris bought some SCHD and VU. He's been dollar cost averaging there. We've got ANCAP who picked up some Nike. And I haven't looked, but I think Nike, didn't they just plummet in share price this week or late last week? Do you know anything about that?
I saw that they were lower. I didn't see. I haven't looked at Nike today or over the. I know that it dipped earlier in the month or in the week and then kind of came back up, but I don't know.
So I'm gonna put it up on the screen real quick here. So Nike, $87.16, and it looks like in the last month they're down a whopping 17.6%, and they're hovering right around their 52-week low. So they've definitely dropped. They've had a nice week. It looks like up 5.5%. It was a very interesting week, and that PE ratio is still looking pretty high, 30. So I don't know. I might be staying away from that one. But anyway, let's move on. Rex here picked up some Realty Income. Always a good pickup there. Jack picked up some Apple and SCHD. SCHD is a popular one tonight. Jack is, I'm not going to get this quite right, but I think Jack is like 15 or 17 years old. So he's starting young. He actually has a channel as well, which is very cool to see. That's cool awesome to see someone so young getting into all this stuff. So Jack, hats off to you, man. Chris here picked up some MPW, some QYLD, and some Walgreens Boots Alliance. Shamir, brave move, picked up some AT&T, who is down. I think they might officially be down below $15 a share as of today. If not, they're like right on the fringe there. Do you have any AT&T, Nolan?
I don't, but I'm really thinking about it. So I have Verizon, and for some reason I've always had this like, I'm picking one of the two. I don't know why, but that's just been the way it's worked out.
No, I get you, man. I don't think you can go wrong either way. I have both in my portfolio. I've been buying more Verizon than I have AT&T.
Yeah.
I know definitely a polarizing stock to say the least.
Sure.
We got G-Man in here just saying hello from Chicago. What's up, G-Man? Glad to see you in here, man. And we got Dividend Freedom, JJ Buckner. Let's go, boys. Let's go, man. JJ, we got to get you on a Dividend Happy Hour sometime soon, man. That'd be fun. We've got Mountain High, who went on a very big shopping spree. Look at all those. We've got Comcast, UGI, SLG, MPW. Wow. Look at all of those pickups. Good for you, man. Good for you. We've got EA picked up some Vici, some Verizon, and Ally. Ally looks like a pretty good stock. Have you ever looked into Ally, Nolan?
Yeah, I've looked into it actually pretty deeply. I haven't bought any because I tend to take a long time to get into a new position. But I really do like Ally, and I like it for a high yield savings account too.
Yeah, man. One of my friends who's probably watching right now, Suzuki man, we were just DMing on Instagram about Ally. He's got his savings account there, and he showed me, I think his interest rate on that account just jumped up to like 2.25%.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, dude, that's crazy. Where else can you find that? Nowhere else.
No, yeah. Another one is Marcus by Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
That's another one that I see. It's like in the threes now.
Oh my gosh, man. I'm slacking. Have you looked into the Yada at all? Have you ever thought about getting an account there?
No, I haven't. What do you like about that?
I don't really know much about it, but I think they're supposed to have a pretty high savings rate as well,
Nice.
or interest rate as well. I think it's pretty comparable to like an Ally, somewhere in the 2% range.
Nice.
It's not public or anything, but Anyway, Chris here. Vegas is a cheap flight away for all of us. Let's crash Ryan's new apartment. Looks spacious. Can probably fit 25 of us. Yeah, actually, I've mapped it all out. We could actually just fit 25 in here. We got room for probably one or two in the closet. So first come, first serve there. But yeah, you guys, open door. So come on over.
I'm in, man. I'm gonna be in Vegas in like 2 or 3 weeks for a conference, so I might have
Yeah,
to
man.
say
For a
hi.
conference or for the concert?
No, so there is a concert at the end of that week, but I'm doing a conference for my job as well.
Okay,
But yeah,
dude. If you have time, let's try and meet up while you're here and grab a cocktail or something. It'd be cool to do that.
heck yeah.
Or I'll just crash the conference.
You'll be. I'll get you on stage, bro.
Cool, man. Yeah, that should be fun for everyone. Wallet Invest picked up some Target today, $153 per share. I love Target. I'd love to see it go down to. I'd love to see it at least get below 140. If it gets there, I'll start really thinking about it. But yeah, I don't know. I can't bring myself to buy it at 153. Apple, I'm kind of the same way. I'm kind of hoping for maybe same thing, like sub 130. I'll maybe start a position in Apple. I'm guessing, Nolan, that you have either Apple, Microsoft, or both.
I definitely
One of
have both. Definitely
You have
both.
both. Okay.
Yeah,
Which one do you have more of? Do you have more Apple? You have more Microsoft, or is there one that you're particularly keen on over the other?
yeah. So I do have more Apple just because I started that position very early, but recently it's been a lot of Microsoft. I've been buying a lot more Microsoft. I think the competitive advantage there is quite undervalued.
Really? Do you think it's the cloud stuff, or what do you think it is?
I think it's the cloud stuff. I also think how sticky their products are. Apple has sticky customers as far as, if you're an Apple person, that's what you're going to stick with. But Microsoft makes it so hard for anybody to switch. So substitutions are just not really a thing with that company. So as far as competitive advantage, I just think long term, they really have, again, a boring business model, but it's one that's going to be needed.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, man. I've heard a few other people share that same sentiment. And one other draw, which isn't a deal breaker, I don't think, but one other draw, I guess, to Microsoft would be that they're diversified both in terms of some of their sales are derived from consumers or just individual people, and they also have corporate sales. So that seems to be one of their advantages as well over Apple.
Yeah.
But then you can flip the script. Apple's got certain advantages too, like that
Oh,
brand.
yeah.
That brand is top notch. It's right up there with Coca-Cola. I mean, we don't even have to get into it. There's Apple people, and then there's other people. I mean,
Right.
kind of a random question that just popped in my head. Do you ever talk stocks with your students, or do they ever come to you asking about certain stocks?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I started a class at my university called personal finance. I actually call it entrepreneurial finance in order to like keep it academically sound. But
Mm.
I just kept seeing these students taking all these classes. I don't know why the sun's just like going crazy on me right now. These students are taking all these classes, great, awesome, learning a lot, but I'm not seeing the practicality long term for everybody forever. And there's one thing that everybody needs to learn, which is personal finance. And I think that just in general, universities slash high schools just need to get some personal finance in their curriculum. I can't tell you, I didn't learn any of this stuff at that age. And that would have propelled me knowing about compound interest first and foremost. And so, yeah, so I put it into their curriculum, this personal finance. We go over everything. I make them research stocks. I make them research, ETFs, budgeting, put together a budget, all just everything. I have them read things from Warren Buffett, things from Dave Ramsey, even though I'm not a big Dave Ramsey guy, but just, all of this stuff, put that together. But now everybody just comes on in and they come to my office hours, and that's what we talk about is stocks. And I help people start their Roth IRAs because it's complicated. It's very complicated, and so yeah, I definitely have that conversation with them.
What prompted you to start your channel? Just to, yeah, obviously, you teach your students all this great stuff. Was it just to do that
Yeah,
on a bigger level, or what was the motivation there?
it was mostly just I heard it enough times from my students that I finally made the plunge. I I've told you before, I don't necessarily love talking to the camera. I've also not ever really been high on social media. It's just like I don't thrive there. Um, I love being with people, in front of people, mentoring, all of that kind of a deal. And so it just felt like, no, I don't need to do YouTube. I'm just going to go talk to these people and like go find them and talk to them. But enough of my students said, man, I don't remember anything I learned over the last 4 years in this college, but I remember your class and I remember learning about saving, and I remember learning don't spend more than you make. Little things like that that just really really helped me. And they would come back after a couple of years and tell me, man, like I got married and I wasn't in debt, and that alone is something I never saw my parents be able to do. So all that to say, I got enough encouragement from my students to finally make me take the plunge, and so I went from there.
Dude, that's so awesome. I'm really glad you started your channel. I I'm just a huge proponent for doing things like this, and I mean, as you know, man, you just never know what these things can turn into. Like, like we were talking about before we went live. It's like just look at the impact one video has made. I mean, I'm talking about your channel specifically. Just one video can impact so many people, and it's such a cool, such a very unique thing. And I don't know, I just think doing something like this can potentially be life changing. And I think there's so many people out there who, especially for, the community here, who's so gung ho about passive income and creating, income outside of their normal job. I just think something like this is such a good thing to do, whether it's talking on camera or having a podcast. Harris, who's watching the stream right now, just started a podcast and he's crushing it. And or a blog or a newsletter, whatever it is, you just never know what these things can turn into, and you never know who you're going to reach. And so I'm always a proponent, especially for those who want to create some passive income. Like, do something like this too. Like, great, do the dividends, like invest for sure, but consider doing something like this too. And you can, just like with investing, like you can go at your own chosen speed. You don't have to put out a video or an email or a podcast every single day. You could do it once a month if you want to. Something's better than nothing, but
Yeah.
I just think it's a really positive thing to get into, just like investing. And I'm sure that your students, I'm sure that your students are very aware of that, and that's why above all other classes, or against all other classes, they remember yours and they remember what you taught them, because man, it's so impactful.
Yeah, I totally see that. I definitely agree with that, and I second all that you said there. I'm gonna move these blinds real quick, so if you want to hit some more comments or
Yeah,
something.
no worries, man. I like, this is my second time doing a stream in this new place, and I get the same exact thing. The first probably 25 minutes, it's like you kind of gotta dodge the light coming through the blinds. Let's see. I'm gonna pull up some more comments here. Let's see. Where are we at here? I see a lot of good comments here. I'm about 25 minutes behind in the comments, so we're going to catch up a little bit. So, I see that one comment now from Russ talking about not trusting people with tattoos talking about dividend investing. Yeah, it's a good rule of thumb to live by, I guess.
Gotta watch out for those people.
Gotta watch out, man.
There was one comment that I saw. I just want to make sure and hit that one. Because it's interesting. Somebody in here talked about VXUS, which is a international ETF, and they were asking, should we be investing in that or looking at that, especially with what's happening in China? And it's pretty funny because I actually just sold all of my VXUS, got out of that position, and put it all into SCHD, to be honest. But the reason behind that was, so I started just looking at why was it that I picked VXUS, and the reason was to get exposure to international companies, of course. And the more that I thought about it, and especially with my academic background, I just did a lot of research into the whole why. And the reason that I was doing it was to get that international exposure. But if you look at any of the businesses, especially in these top ETFs with SCHD or VU or any of these, they're all global entities anyway. And for me personally, I'm looking at market share, I'm looking at the total health of these companies. And for me, I want to invest in the best companies. And regardless of border, I think that we have some of the best companies here in the United States. And it's not because they do business in the United States, but it's because they're capitalizing on what they started here and then are building that out correctly in the cultures that they're building throughout the world. And so for me, it didn't make a lot of sense. And it's something that Warren Buffett says, you don't diversify just to diversify. And to me, that's what it felt like I was doing with VXUS. And there are certain companies that are totally, Chinese or Japanese or whatever that I pick, but I don't necessarily just need to have all these companies that are international only because they're different than the United States. And that's my hot take, I guess, for right now. But I do see most companies being, global companies anyway. And so I'm seeing that we're gathering market share from that specifically. I don't know what your thought is on, do you have anything international specifically?
The only thing international I have is VYMI, which is the Vanguard International High Dividend ETF. I have that in my Roth IRA, but I have a small allocation of it. It might be 10 or 15% of the Roth. But dude, that was, yeah, I agree. It's like, let's use Coca-Cola as an example. Sure, they're based here in the US, but man, they're doing sales in 80 plus different countries, I think. They're very international. And we could think of a handful of different companies that are just like that. So I think that was a really good point. Actually, that's something I haven't thought much about, but yeah, that really resonates with me. Mm-hmm. What do you mean though? So expand on not diversifying just for the sake of diversifying. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I think some people understand the idea of diversification as you need to have a certain amount in certain industries or in certain areas just so that you don't have, too much in technology or too much in consumer staples or healthcare or whatever. You just need to have these other ones. And to a certain extent, I totally can see where you're coming from, but I don't think that it's smart to. I mean, Warren Buffett did this much better than me, but if there's 50 stocks and you know that number one is bringing in, the top amount of money, and number 50 is bringing in the 50th amount of money long term, then why would you equally have one share of all 50? Why wouldn't you have a lot more of one, then a lot more of two, and all the way down till about 10, and then just disregard the last 40, right? And so to a certain extent, I see that as being exactly what the way that I invest. But you do have to then look at it and go, okay, but are your top 10 all just technology stocks because that's the highest market cap for right now? And if that's the case, then that's just not smart to have all of your eggs in one basket. But it kind of goes, there's two edges of that sword there. And so that's what I think about it. What do you think about for diversification?
I'm a proponent for it. And just going back to how I guess beginners should invest, or the question that we answered in this video, it's like, we're recommending that people start out diversified, well diversified, and that makes sense to me. I'm all for that. And as I've gotten deeper in my investing journey, I've really only been doing this for a couple of years at this point, but as I've gotten deeper into this, I like the idea more of being less diversified and more focused. And it makes sense what you say about, I guess, focusing on the winners and the ones that, you just kind of have just to have, ditch them or whatever. But I think I'm kind of coming around to a similar idea where I look at my portfolio and I think, okay, well, I can think of probably 4 positions in my portfolio, maybe 5 that I'm like, okay, I wouldn't be, it wouldn't be the end of the world if I didn't have these in my portfolio. Or I look at them and I think, it might not be a bad idea to get rid of these and reinvest into other, I guess some of my stronger positions or ones that I want to take bigger positions in. But then I stop myself from doing it because I think I want to do that on one hand, but then on the other hand, it's like they're fine positions, they're still good companies, and they're bringing in pretty solid cash flow. So maybe just don't touch them quite yet. But I guess really to answer the question about diversification, starting out, I think it's a really good idea to be well diversified. And I wish I would have done things differently when I first started. I wish I would have gone the ETF route. But I went just straight into individual stocks and did exactly what you said maybe not to do. Just fill out all of the sectors just to make sure you've got skin in every corner of the game. And I wish I wouldn't have done that because I was diversifying just for the sake of diversifying. And as I started to learn more about this stuff, like I sold out of positions like that because I realized I probably shouldn't have been in them in the first place. And I guess that's just part of learning, but there's a much better way to do that. And I guess you don't know all these things when you first start out, right? So hindsight's always 20/20, and it worked out just fine. But
yeah,
I guess this is a very roundabout way to answer that question, so I apologize.
no, I got you, and I agree, and I think that most of us would say, maybe we would change something about what we started with, but if we didn't start that way, we wouldn't have learned what we learned. And so I'm big on you either win or you learn. You don't lose, right? And as long as you learn, you move forward, and that's where we're at.
I think you actually have something in your office, a plaque that says sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I always see that sticking out at the corner of your videos there with all your books and stuff. It's pretty cool, and it's true. It's totally true with with anything, but it definitely applies to investing here. Like, stocks that turn out not to be winners, you have to self-reflect and realize, what was it like? What did I miss here? Where did I go wrong in my assessment before buying in? And that's why, like you said, it's like you got to spend a lot of time before you pull the trigger. And that's just one of those other things that you don't know when you first start out, because these things are so liquid, it's so easy to buy them and sell them, which is great. But
Yeah.
for this style of investing, not so much.
Right. No,
So,
I agree with you. And I just to bring it all back full circle for anyone listening that might have been a little confused with our diversification comments. I do believe in diversification. I believe Ryan does as well. It's just the reason why I'm going to invest in something is not purely for diversification's sake. And
yeah.
so I do agree that you need to have your investments in different areas because any one of them can drop at any time. And so you don't want to get completely wiped out, but you also want to look at it through the lens of, what exactly, what's the risk to reward ratio and the cost analysis on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said, man. Let's move on to the next question. This one comes from Rashawn, who says, "Hey guys, do you think it's smart to just invest in SCHD and VU for the long run? I just turned 24." Rashawn, man, you're gonna want to watch basically the whole start of this live stream, because that's what we talked about probably for the first 15-20 minutes. So the whole premise of this dividend happy hour was to figure out if you only had $100 to invest every month, what's the best way to do it. And Nolan and I both were on the same page. It's like, if you're going to invest in anything, and you have that much, just go with ETFs. And the one that was at the top of both of our lists was SCHD. So to answer your question, man, I think it's smart just to do that or invest in VU or something along those lines. Just set it and forget it. Check it in 20 years and you should be all right.
Definitely agree.
Let's see here, man. We got about 10 minutes left in the stream, guys, so definitely put your questions in there. We are going through this live chat. What's this? Ryan, get you a knife. Do you know what this is? A knife prof jacket, man. So sorry about what happened there.
I was reading the comments as that was happening. I think they were saying somebody got stabbed or something in Vegas, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Someone, unfortunately, this was yesterday. Someone was stabbed on the strip, kind of down by, I think, where the Wynn is.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately. They caught him though and everything, but still, like, yeah, still, it's definitely
Yeah.
a scary time.
Yeah.
Definitely got to watch your back. Okay, so Jack here says, I agree. Oh, there we go. I agree with what Nolan is saying about Microsoft. For school, work, and someone about to go to college, Microsoft software is much easier than Apple. Having a Mac is more of a flex in terms of computers. Yeah. And that's true too. Like, because, Microsoft, they've got, just in terms of the software, like Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, I think, and I'm an Apple guy, but way easier to use than something like, I don't even know what Apple calls their like comparative software, but
They got pages and sheets and
yeah, it's like I deleted those from my Mac. I'm just not going to use them, and I actually use Google's, like Google Docs and Sheets and whatever for all that stuff, even over Microsoft. But
right.
yeah,
Yeah, I was even going to say that too. I know Google's going through the ringer a little bit in their valuation, but um, as far as from a business perspective, I don't know if there's anything much better than the Google software with uh, the way that it's able to cloud and hold all of everything. You don't have to save things. It's just there, and it's very easy to work with other people on the team. I know in my company, it's a global company, and so I work on something during my hours, and somebody else works on something during their hours, and I'm asleep, and we can pick it back up pretty easily. So,
dude, how many jobs do you have?
like I said at the beginning, man, I'm here for the income streams. But yeah, no, I recently, I think I told you, I recently accepted a position as an executive. I'm a vice president of strategy at this ethical outsourcing company, and I was really looking for a company that I could be a part of that was bigger than profit. It was for people, and the idea with this company is that they outsource jobs and things for people, for companies, mid-sized companies that can't have their own call center or can't have their own data inputting center. And the normal way to go is to hire from a different country because they're cheaper. Well, they usually treat those people pretty bad too. So this company is all about finding people in other places like Philippines, Mexico, whatever, and they are paying them a living wage, giving them benefits, giving them career development. So I'm just here for people at this point in my career, and so my goal is, to be a part of something bigger than profit alone.
Oh, that's very respectable, man. That's cool. So you're doing that, you're teaching, and you're investing. Is that it?
I also have a business where I teach people personal finance. So I go to companies and I do like a 90-minute seminar. I'll do like 5 different seminars through the quarter about different things. And so that's something I do. I also do personal finance consulting with individuals, and Airbnb, and yeah, I guess that's it.
Wow, man, you've got a lot going on. That's cool. Good for you. So Jack here, kind of to your point earlier, he agrees personal finance is not taught in school, needs to be taught in school. And he says one of his teachers said he was trying to bring an AP economics class in, but there weren't enough people interested in joining, which honestly, like, I don't blame them. Like, and I'm sure Nolan, you were the same way. Like in high school, and into your early and mid 20s, it's like most people are not thinking about this stuff. Like it's, for some reason, it's hard to get a kid excited to learn about money. And I do somewhat see that changing. I think you're seeing this finance space, the one that we're in, starting to be, I guess, gain a little more traction and people getting more interested in it, which is so cool. But still, like telling people, you know what, set aside money for 20 years and you'll be good to go. It's like people don't want to hear that. It's not fast enough.
No, and that's the thing that I was going to say. So with my students, I'm seeing a lot more students are investing, like a lot. Almost, I would say, I ask at the beginning of the semester how many of you are investing, and have $100 invested. Almost all of them do. The issue is that all of them are invested in the quickest possible way to make money, and so usually it's a meme coin in crypto, or it's GameStop or something like that, where they don't understand the difference between investing and gambling. And so that's what I feel like my role is in this, our role, your role, because a lot of these kids, unfortunately, they're looking for that quick buck, which makes sense. But as you mature a little bit, you start to see that that quick buck isn't a thing. It's not real. So the more you can, double down and dial in, you're gonna definitely see a reward. You just might have to be a little patient.
Yeah. And I think that's honestly a great life lesson too. And I've talked about this before, but just there's so many things that you learn just from investing. Like you learn discipline, you learn the importance of delayed gratification, you learn how to be more financially responsible. Like I know personally, just from doing this, from starting dividend investing and seeing the ball starting to roll in kind of like saying, hey, this could, okay, I can see how 10 years from now, 20 years from now, this is going to be cool, or it's going to be, a lot bigger than today.
Yeah.
It makes you want to put more into it. But sometimes you can't put more into it unless you fix other things going on, in your budget or in your, personal finance life. And so it can, in a sense, force you to become more financially responsible. And I just think there's so many positive things that people can get out of doing this. And I said this when you and I did our video, together a month ago or however long it was.
Yeah.
The same thing is true with like lifting. Or exercising, working out. There are so many parallels between the two that I've noticed. And, just a lot of good, positive lessons that can be learned from doing these things. And it just, in both cases, working out for the most part, or investing, it's like anyone can get started doing this at any age with, as little input really as you want to. Some is better than none. And I don't really know what my point in all of this was, but
it's good. Whatever you're trying to say there, I agree. Anytime that you're talking about health and wellness and financial health, I mean, mental health, I think that that's the trifecta right there. And a lot of people don't preserve their mental health trying to go after their physical or financial health. And so that's something I try to bring to the forefront as well. But yeah, I mean, that's huge.
Well, it's interesting too, like pursuing those things like your physical health or even your financial health can really, this might be a conscious thing or not, but you might notice like it fixes some of the mental stuff as well. You know what I mean? When you get to, when you get to the root of a lot of this stuff, just progressing in those sort of things that you can control, I think makes a big difference in other areas of your life, and it's like, you got to focus on those things you control. And this is definitely one of them. And, I think too, especially we're always bombarded with different things to buy. There's always things being put in our face to buy, just so many different ways to be a consumer. And it's like, that can be really, really taxing, like a new car, new house, new clothes, new this, that, or the other. And it's like, if you can just learn to have a little more willpower with that stuff and maybe like delay that gratification, put it more into something like this, it's like you will notice yourself changing in a positive way over time.
Yep. Unfortunately, that's not fun, Ryan. That's not fun. No. I only want to have fun, man.
No, it's not fun. And actually, I think that was one of the points that I wanted to come back to is like, it's not quick enough. And I think as it pertains specifically to dividend investing, that's why people don't get into this, because this is the point I wanted to make. There is no quick way. Unless you have $1 million in cash sitting in your bank account right now, there is no way to be, I don't want to say be successful there, but there is no way to get to the end of the road or get to basically have that immediate gratification or have those quick results. And actually, JJ, Dividend Freedom, who was in here, I don't think he's in here, but he put out a video recently that was talking exactly about that. The title of it was just the quickest way to live off dividends. And the punchline was like, there's no quick way. You have to put in the time, you have to put in the energy, you have to put in the contributions, which, for people like you and me, for everyone in the live chat, it's like, you got to do it on a consistent basis, because we don't have those funds up front right now to just invest and make $40,000 a year in dividend income. So there's no quick way, but it's sure, I guess in closing, it's, if we're going to wrap this whole thing up, It's not easy, it's not fast, but it sure as heck is worth it.
Definitely. I definitely agree. And before we end, what are some stocks that are on your horizon? What are some stocks that you're looking at right now?
Well, I'm going to be putting out a video this Sunday talking about that exact thing.
Nice.
Um, but some ones that, like, for example, this week I picked up some Altria Group, I bought some Lowe's, and I bought some KRC, Kilroy Realty Corporation, which is one of the newer stocks in my portfolio. So I bought those three. With so many stocks coming down in share price, actually, I think I bought Procter & Gamble this week, not Lowe's. But with so many stocks coming down in share price, I'm trying to take advantage of the opportunity to buy some of the stocks that I don't really get the opportunity to because they're usually pretty pricey. And these are going to be ones like Procter & Gamble is probably the best example. I've been really wanting to build up my position with that company, but it's just been so far above my average cost per share that it didn't seem like the best opportunity to do so. So now that I think I'm down like 7% with that position. So I'm like, all right, it's go time. Let's load up on that. So I've been buying that every week, been building out KRC. I think I'll probably continue to sprinkle some more into other positions like Lowe's or Altria Group or even Intel. I think Intel's cheap enough now that I've always thought it's been kind of cheap, but I'd feel okay nibbling more into Intel. Not too much, but just kind of the stocks that are already in my portfolio, just
Yeah.
building out more of those. And if there's others like Target or Apple that come down more in share price, I'd like to start new positions in those. But that's pretty much it, man. How about yourself?
Cool. Yeah, no, I think that that's good for your listeners to hear too, that you're kind of just putting money into or investments into some of the things that you've already built up, because I think that's one of the things that I talk to a lot of my students about. It's not about, you don't always have to find the newest thing. Like maybe you did the right research and maybe like this is the way to go, and just like strengthen those positions. I know for me that's how I do it. I don't have a lot of positions. I have deep positions, and so for me, it's really been about. I think Berkshire Hathaway for me is in a place where it's starting to become more attractive. I've already had a lot of the B, not A, stock, and so I really like that. I think that their long term output is a little bit better than what people are thinking. I also, like I said, I think I've talked about it a couple of times. Microsoft has been a big one that I've been adding to, and I'm a big Disney guy as well. So Disney, there's a lot of hot water around Disney right now. There's also a lot of issues around the CEO, but I think that it's undervalued still. So as far as individual stocks, that's where I'm at. But again, that's 30% or so of what I'm actually investing in. It's really heavy, like very heavy into SCHD, VU, and QQQ. Those are my
Okay.
three big ones.
Are you adding to your positions every week? Like, do you dollar cost average on a weekly basis, or what does that look like for you?
I dollar cost average on a monthly basis into uh, all areas, and then I choose based off of certain things that are happening, especially lately with the CPI data. I've kind of been playing the market a little bit on that, because I know how emotional people are. I'm not a big time the market guy at all, but since that's a pretty easy correlation, I've been looking at that. But for the most part, it's more of a monthly play than anything else. And especially with getting deeper into real estate, I've had a little bit less to work with.
Yeah. Last question for you, and I think we'll wrap it up here. But talking about the CPI and stuff like that, do you have any? And I'm with you on not timing the market, but do you have any thoughts on what's ahead for the stock market in general? I mean, we've been off to a very interesting start so far here in October, but do you have any thoughts on maybe what the rest of the month might look like, or maybe what the rest of the year might look like on the stock market?
Yeah, not. I guess I'm not super short term, so I can't tell you what CPI is going to come in at this month, or if we're positive, negative, like 8% versus 9%. I don't think it's going to be a drastic change, but I do think overall we have some debt to pay off. We have some inflation to get through. I think we still have a good road ahead of us, which should excite us if we're mature investors, where
Yeah.
I think that the market is going to freak out. I think the big one is going to be as soon as January 1st, as soon as students need to start repaying their student loans, and they start realizing, oh man, I have $300, $400 now that I used to be able to invest with. Now I have to throw that into my payment, even though they're getting that $10,000 forgiveness.
Right.
Most people have way more than that. So as soon as people have a place that they now have to put that dollar amount, I think that the stock market's going to drop a bit, even though that's still just retail investors versus institutional. But all of that being said, I think that that makes that, along with inflation and everything else, makes it so that we all will have less money to be able to spend with, which usually brings some sort of a market slowdown or recession. And so I foresee 2023, especially the last half of 2023, being a bit dry. And then I think that we'll cruise back through it in 2024. But I'm going to be buying up a lot in 2023.
You and me both, my friend. It'll be very interesting to see what happens this next year, because there's a lot of things we're up against right now. So it'll be interesting to see really what the economy does and how that's looking this time next year, and how the market is looking as well. But I guess time will tell, and you have a solid strategy. Don't try and time it too much. Just keep on buying every month or every week, depending on how often you do it. That's just what you got to do, man.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a comment in here that I just saw, and I'm wondering too. Do you make contributions to a Roth IRA?
This one right here.
Yeah.
So I do. So I don't max it out yet. I should, and this is actually something I've been thinking more about. And actually, I'd be interested to hear your take on this. So every single week, I contribute $150 to my taxable brokerage account, $50 to my Roth. And obviously that's not maxing out the Roth IRA. I'd have to, I don't remember how much I'd have to contribute every single week to max out the Roth. But so the question is, like, why don't I invest more into my Roth? I'm making much bigger contributions to the taxable. Why not just do less in the taxable, do more in the Roth to max it out? And that's something I've been thinking about more, actually, really these last couple of weeks, because why don't I? I mean, I initially, when I first made the Roth at the beginning of the year, I was already contributing $150 to the taxable. So I told myself, I'll just keep on keeping on as I have been in the taxable, and then over time I'll work on building out the Roth IRA. But right now I know I can do $50 a week, but right. I'll eventually get it up to where it needs to be to max it out. And that was kind of my initial thought, and that's the thought I've carried to today. But it's like, well, yeah, I mean, I could still do $100 in the taxable and $100 in the Roth, and it should be fine. But then I think, but my ultimate goal, like, I see myself retiring early, like long before retiring early, long before 59 and a half. So having said that, that's why I'm putting more into the taxable. But then again, it's like, well, I don't know. I don't know how early I'm going to retire. I don't know. Like, it just depends on so many things. So with that said, why not just max out the Roth and whatever? And I know at this point, like, the only really the way that I will retire early is if things really start popping off with YouTube. And here's my master plan, Nolan.
Yeah.
Just make YouTube pop off. Hopefully make a really, really nice living doing this. Hopefully, knock on wood. And then as quick as I can get the taxable to a place where, I never have to worry about anything again. No matter what happens, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm good. I can do whatever. At least that's taken care of. And so in my mind, it's been kind of a race to get to that point, which I guess is what's keeping me from putting more into the Roth and less into the taxable. But I don't know if that's the right call. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a financial advisor, but I would just challenge everyone's thinking on this. So with the Roth IRA, the idea is that, yes, you put that money in and you can't take the money out till retirement age, as far as the growth of the capital that you put in. But the money that you put in, you can take that out at any point. And you're not getting a penalty for pulling money out. And so in that regard, if your goal especially for you, like even more so than others, just because I know where your YouTube channel might go. There's going to be a point, hopefully, where you're not able to put money into your Roth IRA anymore, right? There is a limit on your income. And so if your income goes above a certain threshold, you can't put any money into your Roth IRA anymore. And so what I try to tell people is take advantage of it as soon as you can, because as you get older, the more chance of you probably hitting that limit is a possibility, and you're going to wish that you would have done it. So that's one of the things. And I mean, there, in my opinion, I think taxes are going to be through the roof in 20 to 30 years based off of what we've kind of done over the pandemic and just in general. That's the way countries kind of go. And so um, I totally think that the Roth IRA, get as much in there as you possibly can right now, because the worst thing that could happen is you keep the gain in there until you're retired, and then you get to take it out as non-taxable income, right? And you could take out the money earlier if you'd want to, but I think you're savvy enough that you're going to have money coming in from different sources throughout your life anyway. I just think that at your age, as young as you are, it's a smart idea to get some money into that Roth IRA as quick as possible. I wish that I would have done it earlier, because at this point, I'm not able to put into my Roth IRA, but, and it's something that I think about, like, man, I wish I would have been able to put more in.
Do you know what the maximum income level is to contribute? I know it's $6,000 per year, but how much do you have to make to not be able to contribute to your Roth?
I think this now it's 144,000. It might be 140.
Uh-huh.
So it's not like, it's not a crazy amount. I mean, obviously that's a lot of money, but like when you start adding in income streams, that gets there pretty quickly. And with how solid your YouTube channel is, I hope one day that you're going to be there.
Oh, dude, we'll get there. It might take, it's taken longer than I thought it would, but we're getting there for sure. And and same for you, you know. It's just one of those things where, you know, you just can't give up. Each video you put out, you're taking one step forward at least. And so, you know, if nothing else, I love doing this and I love talking about this stuff. So it'll work out one way or another. But that's good to know. And, you know, honestly, the maximum income limit is something I didn't really think too much about, but you're right. Yeah, I don't want to reach that limit and not be able to contribute to the Roth, and so that definitely makes me think a little bit more. And I'll chew on this a little bit more to answer whoever asked that question. You know, I'll chew on it a little bit more, but maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to split that a little more evenly.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, man, I think this is a pretty good place to wrap it up. But thank you once again so much for coming on the Dividend Happy Hour, man. I really enjoyed chatting with you. I hope you come back again sometime soon. And thank you guys, all of you guys out there in the audience still watching, all 84 of you. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us tonight when you could be doing so many much more fun things and talking about dividend stocks and investing with Nolan and myself. But thank you guys all so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you guys. My can is empty, my Celsius. I've been drinking. I'm staying dry tonight, guys, but I'm empty, but I'll still cheers to all of you guys out there. Thank you once again for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and be sure to tune into this Sunday's video, because I'll be talking about 3 dividend stocks that I can't stop buying these guys. So definitely tune into that. It's going to be a great video, and Nolan, once again, man, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Sounds good, man. And you have a super cool audience. Everybody here seems to be very in tune and excited to be here. Thanks again.
Yeah, it's a really positive, uplifting community, and I'm convinced it's the best one out there. So, you know, I'm very fortunate. All right, you guys have a good night and have a good weekend. I'll see you Sunday.
Bye, everybody.